who would make a one day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon? And the main thing is,
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
Could it finally be the end for the so-called super mayor Tiffany Henyard? Well, the rumors are swirling, and it seems like she's about to make a major move that could shock everyone. Apparently, Henyard, who's been at the center of controversy for what feels like forever, might be on the verge of cutting a deal with the FBI. Yes, you heard that right. After years of denying any wrongdoing and positioning herself as the untouchable leader of Dolton, she might be preparing to sell out her closest allies to save herself. But if she does, she's not going down alone.
The township residents are paying for her fund.
There's been a lot of chatter lately that Henyard has realized her reign is over. You can only dodge so many investigations before the hammer comes down, right? Sources claim she's already working behind the scenes with her high-powered legal team to secure a deal with the feds. Let's not forget, she recently hired 2 criminal defense lawyers, big names who have repped high-profile celebrities in the past. You don't bring in the heavy hitters unless you're planning to make some moves. And it looks like Henyard's move could be to give up everyone who helped her run her so-called empire in exchange for avoiding prison time. After all, she's facing not just 1 or 2 scandals. It's an avalanche of accusations, from corruption to misuse of funds and more.
In deep debt, and that is the finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits of beleaguered Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
But what makes this whole situation even juicier is that Henyard's allies aren't exactly clean either. If she flips, she's taking a whole lot of people down with her. For years, she's had a tight-knit circle around her, trustees, police officials, even people who once worked in her administration, and they've been helping her keep the show going. Let's talk about some of these people who are now sweating bullets, knowing they could be next. First, there's Louis Lacey, the former deputy police chief of Dolton and one of Henyard's closest allies. Now, Lacey's story is wild. Just last month, he was hit with a federal indictment for bankruptcy fraud. That's right, Lacey allegedly concealed assets and lied about his income to avoid paying a hefty settlement from a previous lawsuit. And what's even crazier, despite being placed on leave by Dolton's board of trustees, Lacey kept showing up to work like nothing happened. Henyard even went as far as reappointing him to lead the police department after he'd already been fired.
Several new developments in South suburban Dolton today. First, the state comptroller has suspended some payments to the village because it has failed to follow the law by providing financial reports.
If that doesn't scream shady loyalty, what does? But now that the feds are circling, Lacey might not have much of a future left. If Henyard's ready to spill, you can bet she's going to talk about everything she knows about Lacey's involvement in some of Dolton's darker dealings. And that's going to be a mess for him.
Well, Mr. Lacey is absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your guilt first.
Then there's Keith Freeman, Henyard's right-hand man who has also been caught up in legal trouble. Freeman, the village administrator, was charged with bankruptcy fraud earlier this year, much like Lacey. And let's not forget, Freeman was Henyard's registered agent for her controversial cancer charity, the one that never seemed to file the right paperwork with the state. When you're already facing charges and your boss is about to flip, things aren't looking too good.
No, he's not employed by us. So you have got just this gyration.
Freeman was supposedly fired by Henyard, but no one can even figure out if she had the authority to do that. The trustees certainly don't seem to think so, which just adds to the chaos. If Henyard's lawyers strike a deal, you can be sure Freeman's name is going to come up a lot.
Employment. I don't believe that is legally correct. That's just not the way municipalities operate, right?
And let's not forget some of the people who once stood by Henyard, only to turn on her when things got too hot. Take Carmen Carlisle, for instance. She used to be one of Henyard's biggest supporters. She even worked as Henyard's assistant before being appointed as a trustee. But recently, Carlisle broke her silence in a scathing statement, accusing Henyard of unethical and predatory behavior to increase her influence. Carlisle claims Henyard manipulated employees and vendors, all while projecting an image of success that was really funded by hardworking taxpayers. Now that Carlisle has turned whistleblower, she's making it clear she's not going down with the ship. But even though Carlisle is trying to distance herself from Henyard, don't think for a second that the feds won't be looking into her past as well. After all, she was part of Henyard's inner circle for years. There's no telling how deep her involvement goes. Speaking of people jumping ship, let's not forget about Chris Gonzalez, another trustee who's been very vocal about his opposition to Henyard's spending practices. Gonzalez has been a thorn in Henyard's side for a while now, especially when it comes to her lavish events and out-of-control use of taxpayer money.
Or the administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking to necessarily
He's one of the trustees who voted to ban Henyard from using Village credit cards, and he's been demanding transparency for years. If Henyard goes down, she might try to drag Gonzalez with her, but at this point, he's positioning himself as the guy who tried to do the right thing all along. Whether that's true or not is another story. But here's the thing. If Henyard is really trying to make a deal with the feds, she's going to have to bring them something big. And that means everyone in her orbit could be in serious trouble. Her time as mayor has been filled with scandals, accusations, and questionable decisions, and it's not just her who could face consequences. The people who helped her, whether willingly or not, could all find themselves facing charges.
Is there a motion to terminate Keith Freeman?
This isn't just about Henyard anymore. This is about a web of corruption that's been woven over years, involving multiple people in positions of power. The big question now is, who's going to flip first? Is Henyard going to offer up her former allies as sacrificial lambs to save her own skin? Or is someone else in her circle already talking to the feds, trying to cut their own deal before Henyard can beat them to it? The fact that Henyard's lawyers are already making moves suggests that the pressure's mounting, and it's only a matter of time before the whole thing explodes.
We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime. And instead, we have several officers that are riding around protecting the mayor.
But what's most interesting about this situation is the timing. Henyard's legal troubles have been brewing for a while, but it seems like everything's coming to a head now. Could it be that she's realized there's no way out, and the only option left is to cooperate? After all, the feds have been investigating her for months, and the more they dig, the more they're likely to find. With so many people already turning against her, from former allies like Carlisle to outspoken critics like Gonzalez, it's clear that Henyard's once tight grip on Dolton is slipping. And if she's smart, she'll know that the sooner she makes a deal, the better her chances are of walking away with some semblance of her reputation intact.
So that's one of the reasons I vote no when we go through our board packets. It's like, some of this stuff, it's like you don't know exactly what it's for. And then when you ask a question, there's no answer.
But even if she does make a deal, what will that mean for the people she's throwing under the bus? There's no doubt that a lot of folks in Dolton are sweating right now, wondering if they're next on the feds' radar. From the police department to the village administration, everyone who's been part of Henyard's regime is at risk. And if the rumors about her deal are true, we could see a wave of indictments coming soon. But let's rewind a little and take a closer look at exactly what got her into this mess in the first place. Henyard's reign over Dolton has been nothing short of scandalous, with more twists and turns than anyone could have expected. From misuse of funds to outright intimidation, she's managed to turn a small town into her personal empire. But as they say, every empire eventually crumbles, and it looks like Henyard's is teetering on the edge. It all started back when she first took office as mayor in 2021. Right from the get-go, her leadership style raised eyebrows. Dubbed the Dolton dictator by her critics, Henyard quickly made it clear that she was running the show her way, no questions asked. And the more control she gained, the more people started to notice something wasn't right. Dolton, a small town with a population of just over 20,000, suddenly found itself drowning in debt, and fingers were pointed straight at Henyard.
Tonight in South Holland, in a room filled with curiosity and concern, Tiffany Henyard addressed her constituents.
The Thornton Township Supervisor and Dolton Mayor invited the community to Township Talk, where she responded to our report about her use of the township credit card by mentioning travel expenses.
One of the biggest scandals that shook her administration was the notorious misuse of taxpayer funds. Under Henyard's watch, Dolton's finances spiraled into chaos. The town's general fund, which once had a surplus of over $5 million, was drained dry in just a few short years. By 2024, the town was staring down a deficit of over $3.6 million. And where did all that money go? Well, if the rumors are true, a significant chunk went straight into Henyard's lavish lifestyle. From first-class flights to five-star hotels, Henyard wasn't shy about using taxpayer dollars to fund her luxury trips. Let's not forget the infamous Taste of Thornton Township event, where Henyard allegedly spent over $85,000 in taxpayer money on what turned out to be a sparsely attended party. The event featured performances by high-profile musicians like Cake Wyatt and Jay Holiday, with reports stating that Wyatt was paid $30,000 for a 30-minute set, while Jay Holiday pocketed $20,000 for his half-hour performance. And that wasn't all. The township also shelled out thousands more for bounce houses, sound systems, and staff, all for an event that residents later described as a flop. One attendee, former trustee Valeria Stubbs, went on record saying that was a flop. I was flabbergasted by the costs. That's our money. That's the people's money.
Staffers also distributed a breakdown of the township's finances from 2017 to current, where Henyard's team says years ago they were in a deficit of more than $2 million. And now, today, under her administration, her team says there's a surplus of more than $6 million.
But Henyard's spending habits didn't stop there. According to records obtained through Freedom of Information requests, she racked up tens of thousands more on first-class travel, high-end hotels, hotels, and even personal shopping sprees at places like Amazon, Target, and Walgreens. One particularly shocking report revealed that Henyard had dropped a jaw, dropping $33,000 on Amazon in a single day. And what was she buying? No one knows for sure, but one thing's clear. It wasn't anything that benefited the town of Dolton. Of course, Henyard has tried to defend her spending. In one of her public statements, she claimed that the trips were essential for building relationships, attracting investment, and securing valuable resources for the town. But many residents aren't buying it.
This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
We are.
With the town sinking deeper into debt, her explanations feel more like excuses. And as more details come to light, it's becoming harder for Henyard to justify her actions.
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 1993, and she's the best we ever had.
You know, you're doing a lot of programs, good programs for the, the senior citizens, and you're doing a lot of programs for, people who are on a fixed budget. But what about the people, the blue-collar people who are still carrying this, this town?
But the financial scandals are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Henyard's reign. There have also been multiple allegations of corruption and intimidation tactics that have left many in the town feeling fearful and powerless. One of the most shocking accusations came from former trustee Valeria Stubbs, who claimed that Henyard was behind a shooting at her home. Yes, you heard that right. Stubbs, a vocal critic of Henyard, believes that the mayor orchestrated an attack on her property after she publicly spoke out against Henyard's hiring of a controversial figure in the town. According to Stubbs, 2 cars parked outside her home were riddled with bullets in what she believes was an attempt to intimidate her into silence.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
In addition to the intimidation tactics, Henyard's control over the Dolton Police Department has also come under scrutiny. Under her leadership, the police force became less about protecting the town and more about protecting Henyard herself. The FBI is reportedly investigating her excessive use of police resources for personal gain, with reports that she spent over $1 million on a private security detail that was supposed to be protecting the town. Former Dolton Police Chief Robert Collins spoke out about how Henyard's demands for personal security put a strain on the already understaffed department. "We needed those officers on the streets, fighting crime," Collins said. But instead, we have several officers that are riding around protecting the mayor. But perhaps one of the most damaging accusations against Henyard has to do with her alleged retaliation against an employee who reported misconduct. A former assistant claimed that during a taxpayer-funded trip to Las Vegas, she was mistreated by a trustee. When the employee reported the incident to Henyard, she says the mayor promised to take care of it, but then placed her on unpaid leave without her consent. This scandal not only raised serious questions about Henyard's leadership, but also painted a disturbing picture of how far she was willing to go to protect her inner circle.
Lack of transparency about the bills and credit cards. Tonight, Henyard did not specifically mention Washington, but in her last comments, she did address budgets for travel.
You know we have a budget for travel. I can't stand that they just put all that out there so bad for travel. And you should for you other cities, other villages.
As the scandals continue to pile up, it's no wonder the FBI has decided to step in. With so many allegations of financial mismanagement, corruption, and even intimidation, it's clear that Henyard's time as mayor has been nothing short of disastrous for Dolton. And now, as rumors swirl that Henyard might be cutting a deal with the feds, the big question is, will she throw her allies under the bus to save herself?
Yeah, we've been reporting for nearly 2 years on allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard in her capacity as Dolton mayor and Thornton Township supervisor. And now we've learned from multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in charges.
The deal, if true, could be Henyard's last-ditch effort to avoid prison time. By cooperating with the FBI and giving up key players in her administration, she might be able to secure a lighter sentence. But that doesn't mean she's getting off scot-free. Even if Henyard does manage to strike a deal, the damage she's done to Dolton is irreversible. The town's finances are in shambles, and the trust between the local government and its residents has been shattered. So, what does all of this mean for the future of Dolton? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If Henyard is truly ready to cooperate, we could be looking at a major shakeup in the town's leadership. Everyone from her former allies to current trustees could find themselves in the crosshairs of the FBI's investigation. And if the rumors are true, we might see even more arrests in the coming months. The ripple effects of Henyard's downfall could be felt for years. As for Henyard, if she does manage to avoid prison, she'll likely still be forced to resign from her position as mayor. After all, it's hard to run a town when you've admitted to corruption and are under federal scrutiny. And while some might see her resignation as a win for justice, others will say it's too little, too late. The damage has already been done, and the residents of Dolton are the ones left to pick up the pieces.
Yep, Ray and Mike, Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard wanted the Board of Trustees to approve some events that she wants the township to pay for, but none of the trustees showed up for this special meeting tonight. That left the meeting canceled, and Henyard with the floor.
In the end, Henyard's story is one of ambition, power, and ultimately, downfall. What started as a promising political career quickly spiraled into chaos, with Henyard at the center of multiple scandals and controversies. And now, as the walls close in on her, she's faced with a choice: protect her allies or save herself. Whatever decision she makes, one thing is for sure: Tiffany Henyard's time as the supermayor is over.
We reached out to the FBI, which said it is policy for the agency not to comment on the nature, existence, or non-existence of any investigation that may be occurring. A public relations firm responded on behalf of the mayor, saying neither Henyard or the village of Dolton have received any subpoenas or been contacted by the FBI or any other law enforcement agency.
But here's the real kicker. With everything we've seen so far, do you really think Henyard is going to come out of this without facing serious consequences? Can someone in her position really walk away unscathed after years of corruption, lies, and scandals? And what about the people who helped her along the way? Are they next in line for the feds to take down? We can't wait to see how this plays out, and we'll be here to keep you updated every step of the way. So stay tuned, because the drama in Dolton is far from over